In Laboratory Reddit, today's story is:
I refuse to introduce my 21-year-old sister-in-law to my 30-year-old gambling brother, and my parents destroyed me for being arrogant. My brother Kevin, 30, has always been the family favorite. Since he was a child, our parents have given him everything he has asked for. Lately he has been insisting that I formally introduce him to my future wife's sister, but I have flatly refused. My parents are furious with me for this decision, and honestly, their reactions are making me doubt whether I'm doing the right thing. To give some context, I am 25 years old and I am getting married at the beginning of next year to my girlfriend of 2 years. During our engagement party, we organized a meeting between our families. It was there that Kevin met Janine, my fiancé's 21-year-old sister. He didn't leave her side for the whole celebration, and he recently confessed to us that he really liked her. He asked me to formally introduce them, but I refused for several important reasons. First of all, I'm concerned about the age difference. He is 30, while she is barely 21 and still in college. Even though she is of legal age, I find the situation uncomfortable. Furthermore, Janine recently ended a relationship, and my fiancée Kate has confirmed to me that her sister is not interested in starting anything new for the time being. But the most important reason is that, to be honest, I am embarrassed by the idea of introducing him to someone. I have noticed that being the favorite son has left him ill-prepared for real life. He never seemed to understand that outside the home, nobody sees him as special as our parents do. His track record proves it. He dropped out of college and got a job thanks to a friend of Dad's, but he was fired for his bad attitude and lack of commitment. Then he spent 2 years doing nothing, until he tried to start a t-shirt business that failed in a matter of months. Then he opened a bar that worked for a while, but his gambling addiction led him to lose everything and he had to sell it to pay off his debts. This happened a year and a half ago, and since then he has been living in our parents' basement, saying he has projects in progress, when in reality he just spends his time playing video games with his online friends. As if that weren't enough, he behaves like a complete jerk on social media and shows very derogatory attitudes towards women. Considering all this, I hope you understand why I don't want to expose Janine to such a situation. When I told him I wouldn't do it, Kevin reacted as he always does when he doesn't get what he wants, thanks to how our parents raised us, by throwing a tantrum. This conversation took place last week during a family dinner. Kevin started shouting at me, calling me arrogant and telling me that he thought I was superior just because I've done well in life. According to him, it's all been down to luck. That comment infuriated me because the reality is completely the opposite. He is the one who has had all the advantages. Since we were children, our parents have always supported him more than they have supported me, both financially and emotionally. I have achieved what I have despite not having that family support. And he, with all the support in the world, has achieved nothing. That's not bad luck, it's simple incompetence. I told him so directly because I was fed up with his attitude. I explained that I have never been arrogant about my moderate success, that I have achieved everything through hard work. His accusations are pure projection of his insecurities, which are justified considering that he has not developed any real skills because he has been so spoiled. The argument became so heated that our parents intervened. After hearing Kevin's side of the story, they immediately took his side. They argued that as his brother, introducing them was the least he could do, especially considering that Kevin is going through a difficult time. When I tried to explain my reasons to them, they accused me of being superficial and told me that Kevin was right to call me arrogant and think that I think I'm too good for my family. Seeing that it was useless to continue arguing, I withdrew and decided to cut off communication with them. I even had to block them because my mother started bombarding me with messages about how disappointed she was in my behavior and that I couldn't treat my brother like that. Several days have passed and I am very confused by this situation. Am I being the bad guy by refusing to introduce Kevin to Janine? I want to clarify a couple of things. I am seriously considering cutting ties with my parents. I could have done it before, but anyone who comes from a similar family will understand that it's not that simple. Family relationships are complicated, and parents like mine are experts at manipulating us to keep in touch. It's always been that way. Every time they mess up, they use emotional manipulation to get my forgiveness. After all, they are my parents, and when you grow up in this kind of environment, it is very difficult to break the cycle of forgiveness and abuse. I recognize that it is a toxic situation, but this time I think my decision is final and I have no intention of backing down. I also want to explain why Kevin feels insecure about me. I have a degree in business administration and I work for a large company that hired me shortly after I graduated. I have a good salary, and Kate is also very successful in her career. Compared to Kevin, our quality of life is remarkably better, but I have never bragged or thrown it in his face because honestly I don't think it's important. I feel like I still have a lot to achieve, so I see no reason to brag about my current achievements. The fact that he considers me arrogant despite my normal behavior seems to me to be pure projection. Sometimes it's obvious when someone isn't happy for you and is feeling envious. Kevin is like that because I'm sure he expected to be more successful than me, considering all the support he received from our parents. He had all the tools to succeed and didn't take advantage of any of them, so naturally he resents the fact that I've achieved what he couldn't. At least, that's my perspective on the situation. Update 1. I decided to talk to Kate about the whole situation. I hadn't told her before because I know that Kevin doesn't like her from the few times they've interacted. She says he gives off a very uncomfortable and negative vibe. I was worried about upsetting her with Kevin's request, but when I told her, she laughed out loud. She suggested that we could introduce them, since if anyone could put Kevin in his place, it would definitely be Janine. And she's right, Janine is very direct and doesn't tolerate nonsense from anyone. Unlike Kate and I, who are quite reserved, Janine would be perfect for handling someone like Kevin. The fact that Kevin felt he had the right to demand this from me says a lot about his character and how he views others. Before this, we barely exchanged a word during family dinners. This time he approached me just to demand that I introduce him to Janine, even though we've never gotten along. He didn't care that we weren't close, he just assumed he could demand whatever he wanted from me. And when I refused, he had the audacity to yell at me as if I had some obligation to him. Now I feel stupid for having doubted my decision. Looking at his behavior, it would almost be funny to let him have a date with Janine just so she could put him in his place. Kate and I joked about the idea for a moment, but decided not to do it because we didn't want to subject anyone to having to deal with Kevin. After talking to Kate and reading the comments here, I realized that I was overthinking things. I'm 25 years old and it's time to accept that I will never be enough for my parents. Kevin will always be their favorite, their golden child. I'm not going to keep trying anymore. I'm tired of forgiving them over and over again only to be treated like I'm worthless. They have had many opportunities to improve their behavior towards me, but they always choose Kevin over everything. Actually, that was the reason why I felt guilty and hesitant. What Kevin says doesn't affect me, but my parents' words always manage to hurt me. I can't allow this to continue. I'm about to get married, and in a few years we'll probably have children. If I want to be a better father to them, I need to learn to stand up for myself. Even before that, to be a good husband to Kate, I need to stop letting my parents get to me so much. I have blocked my parents out before, but they always manage to manipulate me with tears and memories until I forgive them. This time will be different. I've had enough of their manipulations. Update 2. It's been 9 days since the fight with my parents and Kevin. I kept them blocked out like I said I would. Last night they showed up at my house, but I refused to let them in. I told them I would no longer tolerate their emotional manipulation. They've done this before, they make mistakes, they come to apologize, and the cycle continues. I told them they needed to leave. Instead of leaving, they insisted that I was being ridiculous and disrespectful. They wanted me to let them in so we could have a civilized conversation about what had happened. Kate was at home and advised me to ignore them, telling me that they would eventually get tired and leave. I took her advice and stopped responding to them, but instead of leaving, they started to get more upset and began to make personal comments about Kate and me. First they mentioned that they had helped me pay for college, suggesting that I owed them gratitude. They repeated the same thing as last time, that Kevin was right about me, that I had become arrogant and selfish, with no respect for the family. I was able to ignore all that because I had decided not to let their comments get to me. But then they started attacking Kate, and that's when things got tough. I can handle being criticized, but they have no right to say anything about her. Since they had heard Kate advise me to ignore them, they began accusing her of manipulating me against my family. They said that even before the incident they had decided that she wasn't the kind of person they wanted in the family, and that now she was turning me into her puppet. I started to get angry, but Kate restrained me and asked me to let it go. I shouted at them that if they didn't leave, I would call the police. I hadn't done it before to avoid drama, but the situation was getting out of control. Then they said they were grateful that I had refused to pair Kevin with Janine, because it was bad enough that I was marrying someone from a family that didn't know how to raise their daughters to respect their in-laws. I could have even ignored that, but my mother used a terribly offensive word to refer to Kate. At that moment I lost control. Kate tried to stop me, but I opened the door and started shouting at them. I demanded that my mother apologize to Kate immediately, or they would regret it for the rest of their lives. My father tried to intervene, but I told him I wasn't going to let what they had just said go. They could criticize me because I no longer cared what they thought, but they had no right to say anything about Kate. I gave them two options: apologize and leave peacefully, or refuse and face the consequences. I could see that they were scared because I don't usually lose control like that, but my parents and Kevin have a special way of pushing my buttons. Despite their fear, they are too proud to apologize or admit their mistakes. They became defensive and said they wouldn't apologize for anything, that they weren't scared of my empty threats. I was still shouting at them when Kate dragged me back inside the house and warned them to leave or she would call the police. My mother insulted Kate again, and I think it was then that my father, seeing that the situation was getting out of hand, took her back to the car and they left. Only my parents and Kevin know exactly how to provoke me like that, and they always do it. Kevin did it in our last fight, and now my parents here. But I don't have to put up with it anymore, and as I promised them, I will make sure they regret it. They are aware of how important Kate is to me and how much I love her, but they still decided to attack her like that. That is unacceptable. I've already written an email detailing everything that happened and I plan to send it to the whole family to expose their behavior. Kate asked me to wait a few days in case they apologize, and I agreed for her. But if we don't receive an apology in 3 days, I will send the email and everyone will know exactly what kind of people they are. I've had enough and I definitely won't let them get away with it after this. Update 3, as I mentioned 4 days ago, I waited to see if they would apologize. Kate hadn't blocked them, so they could contact her to apologize, but they didn't. This morning I sent the email to the whole family explaining what happened. Since then, my phone has been ringing non-stop with messages and calls from family members asking what exactly is going on. I haven't replied yet because I want to take this day for myself and, as it's the weekend, spend time with Kate before going back to work. I've already done what I had to do and I know my parents will be furious because the family is talking about them, and probably about me too, but I don't care because at least the truth is coming out. Although I haven't replied to the messages, most of the family are on my side and they are horrified by my parents' behavior. No one is surprised that it all started with Kevin wanting me to set him up with Janine. Everyone considers him a loser and doesn't even ask about him. But my parents' behavior has been exposed. They always try to appear refined and perfect in front of others, but this is their true face. They have no class, they vulgarly insult those who disagree with them, they pamper their 30-year-old son and treat the other one like trash. I'm glad the truth has come out because people needed to see how fake they are. Their reputation is everything to them, that's why they paid for my university, that's why they got Kevin a job knowing he was incompetent. Even now, although they would love to keep Kevin at home without working, they pressure him to look for a job just for appearances, knowing that their image and reputation are the most important thing to them. Even more than Kevin, I decided to hit them where it would hurt them the most. They still haven't tried to contact me, perhaps because they can't as they are blocked, but I'm sure they will either show up at my house or try to contact me by other means. Either way, I know it's a matter of time before they try to reconcile, but that's definitely not going to happen. It was important that everyone knew what kind of phonies my parents are, and now that it's done, I feel relieved and light. I feel like I finally confronted years of trauma and abuse. Maybe revenge isn't the right word, but at least I took action instead of just forgiving and forgetting like I have done for years. I promised them they would regret it and I'm sure they are doing so I consider this mission accomplished. Regarding the upcoming wedding, Kate and I have already discussed it and we will definitely not invite my parents. After what happened recently, it's not even a possibility. They clearly have no respect for me or for Kate. They only care about themselves and Kevin, so they can keep it. The invitations will be sent out in a couple of months and I will invite the rest of my family, but not them. Not even if they beg on their knees, and after what happened, I doubt they even hope to be invited. Anyway, enough about them. Kate and I have started planning the wedding and everything is going very well. She is happy that I defended her so strongly, and these last few days have been pure happiness. We also told Janine about Kevin and her desire for us to pair them up, like Kate. She laughed. She told us she was glad we hadn't said anything at the time because she would have only felt uncomfortable. She told us that during the engagement party she didn't even want to talk to him, but he insisted and acted strangely. She wasn't interested at all and thought it was very strange that a 30-year-old man would want to pursue a 20-year-old university student, exactly what I had said. When we told her about the situation with my parents, she said she had done the right thing and should have called the police that day, which I now think she should have done. It would have saved us a lot of drama, but it's done now. Update 4, it's been a couple of weeks since my last update and, surprisingly, my parents haven't tried to contact me. However, they have contacted all the relatives who received my email, telling them that it's all a lie and that I'm just an arrogant attention seeker who can't bear to see the family happy. Obviously no one believed them, as I had spoken to everyone, answered their questions and explained everything in detail. Now they know everything I've been through since childhood and no one feels sympathy for my parents or Kevin. The family has completely isolated them, and I think my parents have realized that no matter what they say or do, the damage is done. Apart from a few people on their side, no one wants to talk to them. So trying to contact me now wouldn't help them at all. I'm really glad they're leaving me alone because I don't want to have any kind of contact with them. Frankly, I'm happy with the way things are now. Regarding the wedding, Kate and I have been very busy with the preparations. We decided to do something intimate but meaningful. Most importantly, we will be able to celebrate with the people who really support us and care about us. Kate's family has been incredibly understanding and loving throughout this process, and several of my relatives who found out the truth have also shown us their unconditional support. Janine even joked that we should send Kevin a photo of the event just to annoy him, but obviously we won't. It's not worth giving him even that kind of attention. She still laughs every time she remembers that he wanted us to be formally introduced. Kate has helped me a lot to stand firm in my decision. Sometimes, especially at night, I wonder if I was too hard on my parents by exposing everything to the family. But then I remember how they insulted Kate, how they showed up at our house demanding to come in, and how they have allowed Kevin's behavior all these years, and I know I did the right thing. The most surprising thing about all this is how peaceful my life has become since I cut off contact with them. I no longer have to worry about their manipulations or the constant comparisons with Kevin. I can concentrate on my relationship with Kate, on our plans for the future, and on my personal and professional development. It's as if an enormous weight has been lifted from my shoulders. I no longer have to pretend that everything is fine when it's not, nor do I have to put up with them belittling my achievements or those of Kate. My therapist was right when she told me that sometimes the best way to love yourself is to set clear boundaries, even if that means distancing yourself from the family. Some cousins have told me that my parents are still trying to convince the family of their side of the story, but nobody believes them. Kevin apparently still lives in his basement, playing video games and talking about his future projects. It's sad to see that nothing has changed with them, but it's no longer my problem. For now, I'm focused on my future with Kate. We have so many plans and dreams ahead of us, and for the first time in my life, I feel like I can pursue them without the weight of my parents' toxic expectations. Kate and I talk about having children eventually, and I'm glad to know that I'll be able to break the cycle of favoritism and manipulation that I experienced in my own childhood. This experience has taught me that family is not always the one you were born into, but the one you build with love, respect and mutual understanding. I am grateful to have Kate, her family, and the relatives who have decided to support us. Sometimes the most difficult decisions turn out to be the most liberating.